Welcome back and thanks for joining us. If you're new to our channel, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be notified of each new video. In the last video, we revealed our plans to convert a Ford Transit cargo van into a camper van.
Having a van, it would have gave us a little bit more flexibility. We could go pretty much anywhere as long as we're able to have some cell phone reception.
In this video, we go into detail about why we chose the Ford Transit over the Dodge Promaster and Mercedes Sprinter.
How do you describe being scared out of your mind? I don't know. You know, when we drove the Escape home, I was shaking. I was like, I really just don't want even a nick on this trailer. I was so nervous about damaging it because of the value of what we spent on it. And now, especially since this is a new van, words can't even describe. But this is how I think of it. It's only money, and you only live once. You can't take it with you, so you might as well enjoy it.
Hey guys, this is Dory, and I'm Mena. We travel with our lovely dog Fiona to help you discover the most beautiful spots and to share with you what it's like to live as a nomad. So subscribe and welcome to our channel.
Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about picking the right van for you. And for us it came down between three choices: the Transit, the Promaster, and the Sprinter.
In all cases, we wanted the extended length and we wanted the high roof to have as much space as possible.
When you pick your van, it's very important to figure it out what kind of camping you want to be doing. If you're going to be like a weekend warrior or a full-timer.
We also know that we want to be able to camp in cold weather, so that's a huge consideration. We don't want another 3-season camper. We want something that we're going to be able to camp in the wintertime and in cold weather. There are really only 4 choices if you include the Nissan, but we haven't seen a whole lot of conversions with that one, and I think they discontinued that van anyway. There are pros and cons for each one. So there are good sides and there are bad sides based on what we've read, based on what we've heard. So what do we have? What do we have here? What did we get? Do you want to know what we got? We got a Ford Transit cargo van, extended length, high roof, and we got a 350. Originally, we wanted a 250, but it just so happened that we got a 350, and we're happy we did because the suspension is going to be more robust. That's the only difference. On top of which, we were going to buy something used, but it was so difficult to find something used that we ended up finding this new van, and the financing was so low, 1.99%, that we just went for it. And in our limited experience with the Ford Transit, we can talk a little bit about some flaws that we already know about, some known issues with this particular van. But when it comes down to it, you really need to choose the right one for your lifestyle. Now, we already knew that we did not want to go with diesel. There are specialized mechanics and specialized shops that we didn't want to have to deal with our van, depending on where we are going to be in the world. So you don't want to have to, scour the earth if you're really in the middle of nowhere because there's an issue. Now, buying a new van kind of eliminates a little bit of that, but you just never know what might happen.
Eliminating the Sprinter, it was really easy for us. It's a great van, we love it, it's very expensive, but we didn't like the maintenance fees. So every maintenance, oil change, or whatever that you need to get done, you have to find a dealership, a Mercedes dealership. And sometimes they're not easy to find depending where you are.
It's so much easier to find a Ford service center than any of the other ones. It's the #1 selling cargo van out there. So if you take a look at all the cargo vans going down the street, you'll see twice as many Ford Transits as Dodge Promasters or Mercedes Sprinters. So not only will you find a Ford service center more easily, but if you're buying used, you'll be able to find more easily a mechanic that is able to work on a Ford. We don't want to deal with diesel. The maintenance is more expensive. Okay, you get better mileage, but to be honest, is it really worth the headaches?
Right away, we eliminated the diesel and we eliminated the Sprinter.
Yeah, it seemed to us like those were two downsides. So the increased price, the increased difficulty in finding mechanics that can work on it, and of course if we go down to Mexico, then we may have an issue finding the right kind of fuel. So right there we eliminated the Mercedes Sprinter, and on top of which we happen to know that there's an issue with the diesel sensor. It's a known issue that the Mercedes Sprinters have, and there are so many people that talk about this issue. Every time that diesel sensor fails, you have to find a Mercedes dealership, and it's going to cost you around $2,000 or $3,000 to fix it. Now, they haven't actually found a fix for this issue.
It's kind of like having a guillotine on top of your head, right? Every time you go to mechanic, you never know when it's going to drop.
Or it's like, oh, how much is it going to be today? We don't know.
You know it's going to be in the thousands, yeah. So for us, it was right away a deal breaker. The other thing is, we're talking Mercedes, so they're a little bit more expensive. So do you buy a used Mercedes with some mileage, or do you buy a Promaster or a Transit newer with less mileage, right? So you got to look at the positive and negative in there. So next was the Promaster. Promaster was a good contender for many reasons. It's the easiest van to build on. It's square, you have tons of room, you don't have the round walls like you have on this one.
Not only that, but underneath, the Promaster is designed to house those holding tanks. So your gray water tank, your freshwater tank, your black tank. That's why it's such a great choice, and that's why so many manufacturers are using the Ram Promaster. But for us, it's not really that great because we want to have our tanks on the inside, because we want something that's going to be able to withstand really, really cold temperatures. With the Ford Transit, you don't have space for those kinds of tanks.
Exactly. So the Promaster was a good contender, but there was two things that it was sort of a deal breaker for us. The first reason was the low axle in the back wheels. Every time I see a Promaster in front of us, I just keep focusing on that axle, and I think it's just a disaster waiting to happen. If you want to do a little bit of off-roading, you might hit a rock or two. So that for me raised some concerns.
The other thing is that it's front-wheel drive. Knowing that we're putting all the weight in the back, we definitely wanted to have a rear-wheel drive. So the Ford Transit is rear-wheel drive. And we opted not to go with all-wheel drive. We didn't want the extra cost of fuel consumption. We didn't think it would be necessary. We have a 60,000 kilometer bumper-to-bumper warranty, and we have a 100,000 kilometer powertrain warranty. That just makes financial sense. And not only that, but the payments are super, super low.
So that's why we went with the Ford Transit.
Yeah. We went with the 2019, and although it was brand new, it was pretty well discounted. We didn't want the 2020. We didn't want all the new bells and whistles. We weren't interested in the all-wheel drive. We really wanted the rear-wheel drive, and it was the right price and the right conditions, the right size for us. Another thing about our van is that it's a regular engine, not an EcoBoost. It's a 3.7 liter, and it's a V6.
V6.
And it's a V6. And it has less mileage. So we're going to know exactly what the van has gone through. We're going to know exactly what maintenance has been done. We're going to know exactly every kilometer that's been put on it, why, where, how, and that's going to be easy for us to share that information with the next owners.
The 2020 is a great van, but for us, the all-wheel drive was not necessary, and the price tag was a little bit different. I mean, there's a difference of $15,000 to $20,000 in there, and that $15,000 to $20,000, we could easily use it to outfit this bad girl. We went with the 350. Initially, we wanted a 250, and it was a fluke. We got the 350. And at the beginning, I had a little concern because, like, we used to own the Dodge Ram before, 1500. Then you have the 2500 and the 3500. So I always thought that was engine size. Well, for the Transit, it's not. It's just your load capacity. So your engine size and your transmission are the same. So we actually increased our load capacity, I think by 400 pounds, just because we got the 350. And between the 250 and 350, there wasn't a big price difference.
No.
Especially if you go for the single wheel in the back. If you go for the dually, it's more expensive. But we didn't want the dually because it's more wear and tear, it's more
expenses.
Yeah, and more on fuel consumption.
Absolutely. So it ended up working out. We really thought that we had bought the 250, but we're quite happy to learn afterwards that it ended up being the 350 because the suspension is more robust. And when you're building a camper van, you kind of want that anyway, right?
The options that was a must for us was Bluetooth,
Oh yeah,
cruise control,
definitely.
and backup camera.
Absolutely. The one thing that would have been nice to have, honestly, is the hitch. We don't have it, but that's probably a good thing so we don't overload our van, because we can see how it can become very, very easy to overload the van. You know, you just want to keep adding stuff, and we want to try and be careful with the weight if we can. Now, for the downsides of the Ford Transit, let's talk about these things. Now, these things go up there, and they surround the housing of the rear roof light. Now, these things popped out within a couple weeks of us having the van, and this is a known issue with the van. This is not the only known issue though, there's a few other ones. So Ford Transits are known to be a little bit leaky. So there are some rubber holes in the roof, and that's where you mount your racks. So there are these pre-drilled holes, and right now there's just something rubber in there, just holding in place, and there is silicone, but what happens is over time those rubber stoppers, if you want to call them that, they crack and they break over time, and that's a leaking point. That's a source of water leaks inside the van. There's also another thing. So the plastic siding, the cosmetic siding on the sides of the van, so where they're connected into the van, so those should be siliconed as well, because those are sources of water leaks over time. Especially when you're buying a used van, those are things that you want to kind of take into account. So if you're getting a used van, it's a good thing to just pressure wash the van and see if there are any sources of leaks. For us, we haven't done that yet. We shouldn't have any issues since it's brand new, although that is a step that we are wanting to take in the near future. And we're going to close up all of those potential sources of water leaks.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna do the water test once all the holes have been made in the van. So we want to make sure they were sealed correctly. I hope this answers all your questions about the van and why we chose to go with the Ford Transit. Effie?
She thinks we made a good choice. We hope you think we made a good choice too. If you have any more questions, please drop them in the comments below. It will be our pleasure to answer them.
So we'll see you in the next video.